Hello, hello, 1020 fans. You have now made it to week 12. Congratulations, you are almost done. And so this week I want to talk with you about a couple of things. First off, the review for that exam on literary terms that is coming up, because it is important. And then secondly, that document entitled How to Analyze a Film. So let's think about the review for the exam first of all. And you can follow along with me as always if you like by going to content and then to course documents and then to exam on literary terms review sheet. So after reading through this sheet and watching my lecture that I'm giving you now, hate that word, lecture, these video musings that I am imparting to you, and carefully studying the required content, you'll take the exam on literary terms during week 13. So that's the week of Monday the 16th through Sunday the 22nd, so that is next week. The exam will close at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 22nd of November. So if you have not taken it by that time, then you'll receive a 0. So it's very important that you do this. And by taking the exam, you're verifying that you agree to the following pledge. You pledge not to cheat in any way when you're taking this exam, nor to give or receive help during the process of taking this exam. And you further will pledge that all work will be your own. So here are the important things for you to look back on and study. Look over that what is literature document. And again, these documents you'll find by going to exactly where you are, content and then course documents, and looking for the individual titles. When you look at what is literature, you want to focus on the definition of literature itself, on the meaning of that term, the canon, on what makes the literary way of reading different from just normal reading, and on what does literature do. You want to focus on those sections. And then you want to look over the elements of fiction document and focus on characterization, the different types of characters, and dramatic plot structure so that you understand the exposition, the rising action, the climax, which is the point of our highest interest as a reader, the falling action, and the denouement, that French word for resolution. You want to look over that understanding character document. You want to focus on how character is revealed, the definitions of protagonist and antagonist, and the definitions of flat and round characters, dynamic characters, how they're different, and also that word epiphany. So think aha moment, that moment where the character says, aha, this is the truth that I've been looking for about life all along. Next, look over the elements of poetry and focus primarily on the definition of poetry at the top of the page and the definitions of the following terms: imagery, personification, think of Princess Fufu, rhyme, true rhyme, and slant rhyme. So a true rhyme, the rhymes are exactly sounding the same, like move and groove, love and above. A slant rhyme, they sound sort of alike, but they're not exact rhymes, like love and move, for example. Look up the definition there and the elements of poetry of alliteration, scansion. You do not have to know how to scan the poem, but know what that term scansion means. Denotation and connotation, and know the definition of a sonnet. And then look over the elements of drama document that we just recently reviewed. Focus primarily on these definitions: drama, in medias res, asides, soliloquies, blah, and chorus. And again, all these documents are found by going to content and then clicking on course documents. So the first part of the exam on literary terms consists of 10 multiple choice questions, and you'll be asked to choose the one correct best answer. So here is an example of what one of those questions might look like. The 3 major genres, that's a word that means kinds or types of literature: consist of A, fictional stories, poems, and plays, B, fictional stories, creative nonfiction, and poetry, C, Gothic horror, science fiction, and romance, or D, fictional stories, poems, and essays? Well, that's pretty easy. Think about what we've studied this semester. Fictional stories, short fiction, that was our first unit. Poems, that was our second unit. And plays, drama, is our third unit. So it's letter A. And a little bird told me, oh, that question might just appear on that short exam on literary terms, and the students who actually took the time and watched the video will know the right answer. The second portion of the exam consists of 10 fill-in-the-blank questions. So a listing of possible answers will be provided. However, there will be more possibilities than actual space for answers. So it will be your job to figure out which of those answers matches up and fills in the blank correctly. So here's an example of what one of those questions might look like. A blank character is one that does not change or grow and may also be referred to as a stock character. Hint, hint, it's a flat character. That's the correct answer. So think of someone who just falls flat. They don't change, they don't grow. They're also just kind of a stock character, right? Flat character. And again, that little bird said, oh, the people who watch this video might do a lot better than the ones who don't, because that question might really be on that second portion of the exam. And the exam will be timed, so you'll be given that information right before you start, but you want to make sure that you have studied the documents that I suggest. So now let's take a moment and go to the other document that I've asked you to read for this week, and that is how to analyze a film, because that's really what we're doing in paper 3. So films, as we know, are very similar to novels or short stories in that they're telling a story. They include the same genres or types. So it might be a romantic film, historical, might be a detective, a mystery, a thriller, horror film, sci-fi, whatever it is. But films also can include subgroups, such as action films, comedies, tragedies, westerns, war films, whatever it might be. The methods that you use to analyze film are closely related to the same ones that we use to analyze literature because, again, films begin with writing, the writing of the screenplay. But nevertheless, films are multimedial, so they are visual media made for viewers. So films take command of more of our senses to create special atmospheres or emotions, etc. So along with the literary elements that we're already familiar with, like plot, setting, characterization, structure, theme, which make up the text or the screenplay, there are different film techniques used to tell the story or the narrative as well. So attention is paid to sound, the audio. And my husband is a retired audio engineer slash mixer, and he worked in Hollywood for 10 years on film and television. And so he knows a lot about that. Attention is paid to music. Music sets the stage for what's happening in the film, to the lighting, to the camera angles, and to the editing. And so what's important to focus on is how all these elements are used together in creating the film. So below is a list of elements and questions to help you when you're analyzing a film and when you're writing paper 3. So the film contents, the facts. So you're going to think about the title, the year it was produced, the nationality, the names of the actors, the name of the director. So it's important to get those facts clear. The genre. What main genre, what type does this film fall under? Is it a romance? Is it historical? Is it a thriller, etc.? What subgrouping would it fall under? And then setting, a description of where and when the story is happening. So is it happening in the present, the past, or the future? What aspects of setting are we made aware of? Geography, the weather conditions, the physical environment, the time of the day, the time of the year. Where are we in that very first opening scene? And all of this gives you material to write about in paper 3, how that first scene works to really capture our interest and to just really invest us in the film. And then plot and structure. So what are the most important sequences? Like, how is the plot constructed? Is it linear, chronological, or do we have some flashbacks? And in Amistad, we do have some flashbacks because it begins in medias res. It begins right in the middle of affairs on that boat, right, on that ship. And we don't yet know what happened to Cinque before. And we find out later on. And then we can really empathize with him even more so. Are there different plots running parallel? How is the suspense built up? Do any events foreshadow what is to come? And you might also think about objects that are important in the film. You know, objects that are important to Cinque, like the tooth, because they represent his character. Conflict or tension is at the heart of the film. It's related to the main characters. So what would you say is the main conflict? Is it internal, where the character is suffering inwardly? Is it external, caused by surroundings or environment that the main protagonist is finding himself in? Is it both? And then characterization, that deals with how the characters are described. So what are we learning through dialogue, through the way that they speak? And this is important in this film because we have characters who are Africans who are forced into slavery and they don't understand English. And then we have American characters who don't speak the native tongue that the African characters speak. So language is kind of an important aspect of this film. So are the characters described through physical appearance, thoughts, feelings, interactions? Are they static, some of them, who do not change? Do they develop by the end of the story? What kinds of characters are they? Are they dynamic? Are they round? Are they flat? What qualities stand out? Are they stereotypical? Are they believable? Do we identify with them? Do they feel real to us? And the narrator and point of view. The narrator is the person telling the story. So is there a narrator in the film? Who is it? Point of view means through whose eyes the story is being told, whose eyes the story is unfolding through. Is it told through a first-person eye point of view or through an off-screen narrator, or are we just simply watching the events unfold and there's no real narrator? Imagery. So in films, imagery are the elements used to create pictures in our minds. So they could include symbols, and we have a lot of that in Amistad. When something stands not only for itself, the literal meaning, like the tooth, but also for something else, a figurative meaning, like a feather in a film, right, or the tooth. In Forrest Gump, the feather symbolizes forest destiny. What images are used in the film, color, objects, etc.? Can you find any symbols? And then theme, what is the universal idea shining through? And then cinematic effects. So the soundtrack, both the dialogue and the music and the sounds in the film as well would be included here. How does it enhance the atmosphere of the film? What effect does the choice of music have at certain parts in the film? Is it suitable for the film? Are particular sounds accentuated at certain parts of the film? The use of the camera. So a camera shot is based on the camera's distance from the object. So there are 4 basic shots. The close-up, very close shot where the lens is focusing on some detail of the actor's face. There's the medium shot where the camera lens picks up some background or maybe the upper half of the character. There's a full shot where the lens has a full view of the actor, and a long shot, which is taken at a distance from an object or from the actor. So what camera shots can you identify in Amistad? How are they used? And then the camera angle refers to how the camera is tilted while you're filming. So is it straight on, the same height as the object? Is it at a high angle looking down? Is it at a low angle looking up? Is it at an oblique angle tilted sideways? Does the way in which the camera is held say anything about the characters or about the theme, about what's happening in that moment? Lighting can focus our attention on the main character or an object. It sets a mood or an atmosphere. So high key lighting is bright and illuminating, but low key lighting is dark with a lot of shadows. So what special lighting effects are you noticing in the most important scenes? Filters are also often used to soften and reduce the harsh contrast. They can be used to eliminate haze. I really need one because that light from the window back there is really annoying. They can be used to eliminate ultraviolet light or glare from water when shooting outside. Using color like red or orange can be used to enhance the feeling of a sunset. So do you see any examples where maybe a filter might have been used in the film? What effect did it have? What colors are sort of dominating Amistad? And then editing is the way in which the film editor, together with the director, cuts and splices and assembles then the scenes. So the way the scenes are joined together creates the rhythm, sort of the flow of the motion picture. Scenes could be long and drawn out, or they might be short and choppy. So do you see a pattern to how the scenes are cut? How would you describe the pace, the tempo of the film? And maybe it changes. Maybe certain scenes move along quickly, and then we might have a longer scene. So the conclusion, when you're analyzing a film for a project or for a paper, you might be asked to use some or all of the elements above. Link the elements together that seem the most logical to you. Try to think of the film holistically, and try to think about how the elements mentioned above work together to bring out the main message, the main theme in that film. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. And don't forget also to post in this week's discussion board. We're going to revisit that Tell Me a Story piece that you did way back at the beginning of the semester and see how you might have changed from then until now. You have some readings from Alex Pate's novel version of the screenplay for this week, and then you also want to begin viewing Amistad. Now it is up to you. You can finish it in one sitting if you want. You can break it up as long as you're finished viewing it by the date on our syllabus that tells you that you should be done. Remember, paper revisions are due before Sunday, the 22nd of November, and that's listed in your syllabus. It is also on your weekly checklist. So if you are eligible to revise a paper and you'd like to do so to earn a higher grade, then please do take advantage of that opportunity that I am offering to you. So thanks for your patience, and I hope that you will have a fabulous week.